Thank you very much, Joe. I'll just pronounce my last name, so it's like Sciarra. It's very nice like that, yes. So yes, today I'll be talking about student misconceptions and why they lead down a very slippery slope. So let's start off with this fairly realistic situation where you all have a midterm, or actually an exam, coming up next Wednesday. And you all being great students, you're going to start studying a week before. So there you are, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, every single day, all the way up until the midterm. And because you've invested so much time and there's nothing more you could have done, you're thinking, I'm going to get a good grade. But then this happens. You are shocked. You thought you did so much better and your grade is so much worse. And instead of blaming the teacher, which I'm sure many of us have done, don't lie, I'm going to say that it may have been because of something you may have engaged in. Something like rereading. In fact, 84% of us actually reread when studying. What does this lead to? It increases something we call processing fluency. What do I mean by fluency? It's the ease with which you process material or how familiar it is to you. And once we reread information more and more, we begin misattributing our fluency. We think, wow, this information seems so familiar. I must know it. So there you are, you're at the 5th time rereading your notes and you just skip the page because you think you know it. But you may not actually know it. Perhaps because, well, rereading leads to forgetting. I'm going to point your attention towards the group outlined in the blue box. They engaged in 4 study sessions, yet forgot over half the information. They actually read the exact same passage over 14 times. So not only are we misattributing our fluency, we're forgetting a lot of what we read. And combined, we can say that, well, you're not really developing any expertise in the field. In fact, you're a non-expert. And essentially, in addition to your low test performance, something else very interesting happens here. Researchers looked into this. They brought in participants into the lab, had them complete 10 logical reasoning tasks. After they completed the tasks, participants had one simple task. They just had to estimate their performance. How well do you think you did? Here are the results. So what we see is the shaded line, or the circles, represent an actual score, whereas the solid lines represent perceived scores. In particular, the squares represent perceived ability, and the triangles represent perceived test score. If you look at the y-axis, it represents the percentile for which these scores and estimations land into. And if you look at the x-axis, it represents the quartile for which the participant landed in. Because you were misattributing your fluency and forgetting a lot of what you reread, you probably land in this bottom quartile here. Your real grade lands somewhere in this blue circle range, but you thought you did much better. And what we see is that non-experts provide these extreme overestimates. They thought they did so much better. And so this sort of explains why you were so shocked when you got back your test grade. You thought you did so much better. But let's go a step further here. Why does this happen? Why are they overestimating their performance? Researchers looked into this. 4 weeks later, they brought in top and bottom quartile participants, brought them into the lab. They had one simple task. They just had to grade tests from their peers. That was it. After grading the tests, they then got back their own test, and they were just given another simple task. Just re-estimate your performance. Tell us how you think you did. The bottom quartile participants, they didn't do so well. They thought they still got a great mark, when in reality, they didn't. And so what we see is that non-experts, they're completely unaware of their low test performance. Not only does a lack of knowledge lead to a low test performance, it blinds you from actually realizing it. And so researchers were sort of feeling bad for these participants and they sort of wanted to help them out. So they gave them what we're going to call guided practice or training. And after these participants received training in these logical tasks, they were then given back their test one last time and asked to re-estimate their test performance. Well, finally something good happened. What we see is that these trained non-experts, after they received this training, this guided practice, they were much more accurate in estimating their test performance. Non-experts, well, they actually thought they somehow did a bit better, so they're still in another dimension. They have no idea what's going on. But what I want to get you here is that improving knowledge increases awareness. As you gather more information, more knowledge about a field, you become better able to identify gaps in your knowledge. And that's key for learning. One lesson I want to leave you here today is the way we study influences what we go on to realize. We can all choose to simply just reread information and then be, in shock when we get back our midterm. Or we can engage in these effective study methods and go on to succeed in university, but also go on to succeed as lifelong learners, because we'll be able to identify what we do not know. Thank you very much for listening to me, everyone.